Welcome to Music Maker's Cookbook. I'm Sean.
I'm Brandon.
And this is the podcast that helps independent artists cook up recipes for success in the music industry. And today, our weekly comment question, which we invite you to answer in the comments below, is when you go to a concert, what is the fact that makes the largest impact on you? Now you can think of large concerts, small concerts, whatever, just when you go out to a show, what aspect of it makes a big impact?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just whether or not the band thanked the crowd and did it properly. Honestly, I look for that. I've seen, and of course, these touring bands, it's a little hard to remember where you're at every night.
Yeah.
I've seen touring bands just completely fuck up the city that they're in. And it's kind of like a little bit of a slap in the face. Because when you think about it, it might not be that big of a deal in a grand scheme of things, but people are very much attached to their social hub around, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe one thing that we can talk about from Create, Produce, Consume is that he talks about the different hubs that are out there. Mm-hmm. And people are very attached to that. They identify with that. That's where they grew up, right?
Yeah, I think he was mentioning how it's one of the biggest things that comedians will do.
Absolutely.
When they come out, the very first thing they'll do is open up with, "Hey, insert city, how you doing tonight?"
Yep.
It immediately gets them involved, gets them thinking positively about the experience.
Yep.
So for you, it's the engagement between the band.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's that quick connection that's like, yep, we're in sync right now.
Yep.
We're good to go. And that's truly one of the things that really sticks out to me the most. And I mean, outside of hey, if somebody can figure out better parking, that'd be great. But outside of that, that is really what sticks out to me. Other than the theatrics, of course, the lighting and the sound, of course. Of course, that's going to stick out. That's what you're there for. You're there to be entertained. So all the things that come along with it. So that's one of the things that truly stick out to me. What about you, Sean?
No, for sure. For me, obviously, maybe not obviously, but audio engineer, both live and studio. I'm one of those boring friends you take to the concert that stands there with his arms crossed and just listens to it.
Yep.
But that's because I'm trained to do that. I'm always listening critically.
Yep.
I have a very hard time turning it off.
Yeah.
When I do turn it off, it's the crowd environment that stands out the most to me. It makes the biggest impact. Not even necessarily if I'm participating with it, because I'm just standing there, arms crossed. But if there's high energy, the crowd is responding. If there's a mosh pit or not, depending on how the whole atmosphere is of the venue of the show. When I leave, that's what sticks with me. That makes the big impact. And I know when I go to concerts with other people, be it friends, family, if they're not musicians or engineers, usually sound quality is not the thing that they make the biggest impact on.
Sure.
When they leave, it's usually the visual, it's usually the engagement, it's all those other aspects to it that make it the show versus the performance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's funny that we're talking about this because we are talking about how we can make this better today, right? But really the experience starts way beforehand. The experience starts when you announce something, and it's how can we cultivate that entire experience to be better for the end listener, right? And what does it mean to be unreasonable while doing that, right? Unreasonable. Yeah. Which is what we're going to talk about today, is about unreasonable hospitality for the musician.
Yep. Where did you get this idea from?
Yeah, I was super inspired by the show called The Bear. And if you've seen the show, then you've probably seen this episode by now. I think it's season 3, if I remember correctly, which is the latest season.
Okay.
Basically, there's a whole episode in there where the crew is putting together a wannabe 2 to 3 star Michelin chef restaurant or whatever.
Yes.
Right? And I can't remember. It's been over a year since I've seen the episode, but I remember it faintly. And while they're doing this,
just so you know, Brandon said, it's been over a year since you've seen it. He's been cooking on this. I have
been. I've wanted. So
this is a big one for him.
I was super inspired when I first saw it, and it got me fired up. And I think I might have texted you that same day. I was like, I have an idea for an episode, and it's the secondary character. He's also a main. He's related to the main character. I'm not going to give out any names because I can't remember him, frankly.
It's been a year.
It's been a year, and he goes through this boot camp of how do I make the experience better for the attendee of the restaurant? And in the book, or in the episode itself, it shows him reading Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. Guidara. I think that's how you say his name. And it super inspired me. And the things that he was doing, all the things that made the experience special for one individual person after another, was just so inspiring. It's like, how can we connect with our listeners that way, whether it's in person or wherever the experience starts? How can you cultivate that where it's just a magnificent experience throughout? And like, we have a little bit more technological heaps to kind of go through. It's not always a one-to-one thing, like what I was talking about, right? When you buy tickets, you're not directly selling the ticket most of the time, right? So we have hurdles to get through, but we're going to try to adapt it the best that we can. So that way, when you are in person or you are one-to-one, you can make that experience even better, right? And we're going to be unreasonable while doing it. And this is going to be more of kind of like a discussion-based thing where we kind of like riff off each other a little bit more so than this is how you do it, because we want to leave this open-ended because we want to hear your ideas, because this is something that we can always get better at. And the experience market is very underutilized and underappreciated a lot of the time. Experiences go a long way, and you can only get one experience one time, so you better make it the damn best time, right? So, and I'm also super excited about it.
I'm super excited about it too. And when you think about like an experience, and we mentioned like lighting, like shows, and like, yes, that the big stuff exists on that high level. You know, think of Pink literally flying above the crowd, or like Roger Waters when he has like the inflatable blimp inside the stadium.
Lee,
things like
when
that.
He has a drum solo that's upside down.
Yes, things like that. But you can do some very basic things that increase that experience, that are hospitable to your people viewing, your patrons, your fans, that on a smaller level, if that's where you are in your career, help you stand out above the crowd and make it so when the ticket's done, when all 5 bands have played, the people who were there for all of them, they remember you.
Exactly.
Maybe not everybody else, but they remember you because of something that is aside from your music.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because I'm gonna be real.
Please.
I've been a live engineer for 7 years now. Only a couple times at festivals or larger events. But if Joe was here, I'm sure he would attest with me too.
Oh, for
Check out those episodes with Joe. And when it comes to live, the sound quality is not the biggest thing that people care about. It's just not. It is can they see the performer? Can they interact with them? Are they talking to them? Is there energy within the crowd? It's those things that matter more than the necessary fidelity of the sound. I mean, you look at all these things that like are historically live sound equipment and things like that, and they don't sound the best. A lot of the mics you use on tour, you would never use in a studio. A part of it's because of feedback and all that, but in your monitors and things like that, it's less of a problem than ever, but you're not going to throw a Royer 121 on a guitar cab in a live setting. Hell no.
No way.
So 57 gets the job done.
Exactly. I was just at a small live show last week, and the performer goes, "How does it sound out there?" And I said, "Sounds good. Sounds like music to me." Like, I wasn't there critiquing the sound. I was there to listen to him, right? And then it was almost like it was like an afterthought to me, because like I didn't even notice how the sound was. I was just there to enjoy, and I'm sure you would have noticed because you're trained to do that. You know, you live in a live setting, right? But I was just there, pressing record on the camcorder or whatever. Wow, who calls it a camcorder anymore? Pressing record on the camera and just enjoying what he was doing. And it wasn't until he was like, "How's the sound?" I'm like, "Oh, well, that's pretty good. You know, it sounds good."
But if it's not good, now you're thinking about it.
Yeah, that's
true.
Like,
oh, well, I can't really hear him, but like things like that. It's dangerous to put that out there.
Yes, because like the sound is almost an expectation. You know, it's like, yes, the sound will be good. And it's like, okay, we're going to move on past that. The lights have to be good. The performance has to be great. The merch booth has to be tolerable, because that can get out of hand real quick sometimes.
The experience.
As a whole that's everything else on top that people are looking for, right?
So dive into that. How do you want to start talking about hospitality in the music industry?
I was going to ask you, do you want to start at the very infancy of like a live show?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's sell tickets. Let's announce it. So what do we do there, right? So what are some ways that we can kind of cultivate a better experience for our audience?
Here's a quick pause to remind you that if you're enjoying the insights of today's episode, please click subscribe or follow us so that you're always in the loop as to what's happening at the Music Makers Cookbook.
And if you're loving what we're cooking up, a rating or review helps us reach more independent artists just like you. Thank you for listening to Music Makers Cookbook.
Now back to the show. Can I actually start a little bit earlier than that?
You could,
I'm going to start even earlier than the ticket sales.
Yeah.
We have a whole series early on in the podcast where we talk about how to have a live show from like beginning to end. So for details on that kind of stuff, you can check out those, like I think it's 4 or 5 episodes. But in one of the episodes, we talk about the importance of not just having a show, but having an event.
Yeah.
So if you have multiple bands on the ticket, what's something similar about it, and that you can make it an event versus a show. Like, hey, come and see me on the 11th at this venue versus, hey, come to this event on this date. Lo-fi or like retro or nostalgia night or something. Like make it an event that gets people talking about it, more interested in it. And that also plays into the ticket. If you are promoting an event, it's a lot easier to make a ticket an event. I may make a ticket something that is memorable versus just a ticket.
Right. What was that really big festival that was like, it had like Blink 182. Well, Warped Tour, of course, but like Blink 182, and it was like a throwback festival. I forgot what it was.
I can't remember.
When we were Young Fest?
Something like that.
Was that what it was? But there was a whole theme to it.
Yeah.
And it was grabbing at millennials or late Gen Xers, right? That grew up with the sound of Blink 182, Simple Plan, and all those bands combined into one festival. That was the theme of it. And of course it has your favorite bands there because that's what it was for. It was for exactly that. So like, how can you cultivate an event like that? Albeit maybe on a smaller scale, like Sean was saying, maybe like a luau night, right? And then you have a couple of different bands playing different covers of their own songs in luau version or something, right? Something unique. How can you make it an overall experience besides being so transactional, saying, come to my show? That's boring. That is really boring. Does it work sometimes? Maybe, but treat people to something else. People go to shows all the time. What does that mean anymore? You got to fight for the attention here. And that's truly where it starts.
The goal is to make a career out of this. To make a career out of this, people need to be aware of it. To get people aware and excited and interested in it, you have to stand out.
Right.
You can't just be another show to grow. And making things, events is one of the easiest ways to do it.
Absolutely.
And it leads into like, hey, now you can, when you do sell the tickets, you can frame it within that event, within that theme to pique more of an interest of people who are willing to buy it.
Exactly.
And you can also create an event that goes around your target fan, their interests, that makes someone who maybe isn't aware of you aware of what's going on and interested in coming to the show and listening to your music because you know, hey, my fans are these kinds of people. They're interested in these kinds of things. Let's overlap them and really serve these people who are interested and excited about my music.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It's a very tough thing to do. It's a very tough thing to do, but it's worth putting the time and money into it.
It is. Thanks for letting me side roll this whole thing.
Actually, that's a great place to start. It goes
before tickets,
It goes before tickets because you have to start, the idea has to come before you sell something, right? So, next step, maybe go on to selling stuff. All right, well, let's go sell it through Ticketmaster. Wow, that could be a fucking disaster, right? Maybe there are better platforms or better ways to sell tickets. Like if you have a smaller audience base, maybe you can get away with actually going and delivering tickets face to face. Might be kind of cool. Or maybe you can mail them out with a sticker in there, right? Or a hand signed letter that says, "Thank you for buying this ticket. We look forward to seeing you on this." That is so Instagram worthy, right?
Yes.
And it's such a personal touch on something because you truly show the appreciation of it. Now, a lot of sales are handled over the internet these days, and that obviously makes sense. So you might have to find some ways around this, and Ticketmaster is one of the biggest ways to sell tickets. So if you are on that platform, and you have a large enough audience to use Ticketmaster to utilize that efficiently and effectively, then obviously things might be different. But it's the ticket buying experience is so frustrating these days. It is extremely frustrating, and people pay a bunch of fees, and I know it's frustrating for bands too. So this might be one where you take a hard look at it and see what you can do within reason. I know we said we're going to be unreasonable, but this one kind of has to be within reasons. We're playing by a subset of rules at some point.
I was going to say, I would say a lot of these ideas are dependent upon the venue you are performing. If you are at a venue that only does online tickets, where at the door they scan the ticket and they come in, then you can't really do physical tickets like that, or they don't do pre-sale tickets, or depending on what their rules are, you have to play within the venue's role.
Right.
But if you're doing like a house show or like a house like release show or things like that, then you can definitely be on your website. Hey, if you order like a ticket a week in advance, we can almost guarantee that you will have these physical ticket sent to you in the mail, or some goodies in the mail or whatnot, things that allow it to be more personable. And a house show would be great for this because they're already interested in you specifically because they're coming to a house. They want to listen to your music.
Exactly.
And then you can control how the tickets are sent out, all that. And then also we'll also send you a verification email that has a link to Ticketmaster or a link to a digital copy. So in case it gets lost in the mail, you can still come to the show.
Exactly.
But just having that double whammy or thing like that. And you can even make it interesting of, hey, here's your digital ticket. We're mailing you a physical ticket. If you show us the physical ticket when you come to the show, you get 10% off the merch.
I was just about to say that. That's so gorgeous because not only does that 10% obviously benefit them mutually, and right now we're not talking about selling the house. We're not talking about you giving away everything for free for an unforgettable experience because you still have to make money too. This is how an economy works, right? But that 10% encourages them to come up to the booth. And that is where magic can happen if you are manning the booth with your merch booth attendant, or if your merch booth attendant is very well versed in social etiquette, right? That can make an experience go from 0 to 100 very quickly, right? And I just love that you said that because that encourages that, right?
Yes.
And we're not sitting here saying, yes, just give everything away. I mean, obviously that would be unreasonable, but in a very bad way, right? So,
and I would say I know we're harping on tickets for a little bit, a lot here. But if you are only doing digital distribution, you don't really have anything physical, you don't want to go through the hassle of mailing everything out or writing things like that. If you maybe link to selling digital tickets through your website and someone buys it through your website, make sure they give you their email address. You can add it to the email list, and then you can email them a bonus of, hey, thank you for coming out to our show. This is our latest album. Here's a Spotify link for it. And then here's a link to a hidden Bandcamp page or whatever where you can listen to our demo recordings. Or like some sort of small extra thing for there. Or, hey, here's a wallpaper or here's a download to our QR code for like a filter. I know there have been artists who, when they promote things like new albums or songs or whatnot, they will commission custom Snapchat or TikTok filters to be made that relate to their song. So you can give them access to download that filter so they can apply it in their social posts. Like, I got my ticket, I'm excited to go to the show. They use the filter, they tag you in it, and that helps it spread as well. So there are digital assets you can do that are engaging for people to use. Not necessarily it has to be physical, it can also be digital.
Absolutely. Especially in an age that we're super focused on digital stuff these days, you know? So yeah, I mean, that's ticket sales, right? In a nutshell. And like
20 minutes later,
you know, and that's a brutal one, you know, because a lot of the times you do play by the rules that are set forth in front of you. And it's hard to get around those. It's truly very difficult. And there's a lot that kind of go into it too. So let's move on to arriving, or maybe even before we arrive, right? So let's say you're playing a venue and let's say Ann Arbor, because I love Ann Arbor, right? If you don't know, we're from Michigan. So let's say we're playing at the Blind Pig. And what is the one thing that people hate with going to a show? Finding parking. If you could tell somebody where to park, I guarantee you the experience would be overall better, right? And like, you have to kind of go out of your way to find these parking places. Of course, we know there's a parking structure right across the street from the Blind Pig. But let's say that you don't know that. You have to go search for it. You have to be like, okay, how much does it cost? Like what, like all the in-betweens, right?
So I recently went to my girlfriend's sister's graduation. This was actually almost a year ago at this point. And in the ticket confirmation email, there was a list of, here are 5 links to parking decks that you can do. We recommend this one. If it's full, here are 4 other ones.
That'd be exactly where to do it.
So when they buy the ticket, that also improves the thing. It's a digital thing that benefits them. Send them, hey, thanks for buying our ticket. We're excited to see you at the show. Here are 5 parking decks by the venue that that you can use.
Beautiful. And I think that is just so key, because that is such a friction point on the travel out there. And just like, and sometimes like if people have enough anxiety about it, they just won't come. They'd be happy to be like, oh, it's an extra burden on me. So, and I already bought the ticket, so I'm supporting still. So I'm just not going to go at this point because parking's a pain in the ass in downtown Detroit or wherever, right?
Or in Arbor, or whatever.
Or in Arbor, wherever you want to go. Exactly. So, I think that just helps out a lot. And that one is almost like you're kind of like a digital concierge at that point. It's like, hey, go here. This makes your experience better because I already told you where it's at. Here's the address. All you have to do is plug it in and just go. This is how much it roughly costs. There you go. Call it a day. Even better if you can reserve parking. I don't know. Some places might offer that.
Yeah, depending on where you are.
And if you do valet, extra bonus to you. That's super unreasonable and that's badass. But that would be very expensive.
It would be.
I'm sure that only certain venues do it. I'm sure there aren't many that do it. So be kind of sick though. If you've done that before, let me know. I'm definitely curious.
I'd be very interested.
I would be too.
And did you have to hire an external valet service? We probably would because they would have to carry insurance for it and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be very, very messy. So if you're going to do that, let us know. We're very curious to hear about that. So once we get there, then what? What happens after that? Well, we just walk in and hand the ticket and then we stand there, wait for them to come on. Well, we've already said that we want to encourage people to come up to the booth. So we sent them a physical ticket in the mail that says, hey, if you present this to us, then you get 10% off. That encourages a transaction or at least a engagement along the way. And I'm thinking of the blind pig now that it's stuck in my head. The merch booths are usually off to the side to the right, so when you walk in, the merch booth is like right there. So you can almost not pass it or not miss it. Not miss it. Thank you. But you can still choose not to go up there, right? And what are you going to do? Call people over? Hey, come here. You're like, okay, you could, but you want to encourage people to come up to it. So what happens when people come up to it? Well, you want to introduce yourself, right? That'd be really nice. Say, hey, thank you for coming to the show. Yeah. Super key. I don't always hear that a lot of the time. Of course, this is on a scale where you can interact with people. If you have too many people in line, it's a little bit more challenging to do this, but you need to go out of your way to facilitate this because that is super important. And I would say that is not unreasonable. That's just being a decent person.
Especially just starting off. If you're at a small cap venue and you're not the opener or the doors open an hour before you take the set, spend the first half hour welcoming people once they get their tickets checked saying, hey, thanks for coming to see us. Like, who are you here to see? What's your favorite song?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. We might play that. Have that sort of conversation. And then you can direct them to the merch booth and say, hey, we got these things going on or whatever. But just like, if you have the ability to welcome them and, once again, this depends on the opportunity to it. If there are doors open and you have to be playing, then you can't do that. But throughout, which we'll get to later, throughout the show, you can interact with them.
Exactly.
But that's one small thing. Even if you can't do it, you could, have somebody who runs your merch booth stand kind of off to the side of the merch booth, and like when people walk in, have something like a sticker or something small. Like, hey, thanks for coming to the show. Here's a free sticker.
Beautiful.
Now, oftentimes it's better to hand these things at the end of a concert.
Yeah, if you're able to.
Unless you have like a wristband or something like a pin or something that can be worn by them that doesn't take up their hands or doesn't get smushed in a pocket.
Or doesn't get dropped on the ground.
Or sticker slapped on the bathroom wall.
Exactly. Yeah, because that can go south pretty quickly. Like I know some venues when we were doing like a lot of the radio stuff, I mentioned this before on the podcast, they banned us from giving out stickers because people were posting them all over the place and it was just a mess. And we were liable for it, but like didn't really get in trouble. It was just like, hey, can you just not do this anymore? So that and the budget was getting cut for stickers at the same time because that can get expensive. So it was kind of like a double-edged sword. So like if you can do something like a bracelet or like a sticker too, like and you can make sure that and you can confirm with the venue that you can give out these stickers, right? Then it's a worthwhile investment just to get people pushing your stuff around. In
that case though, it would be better and more efficient for them to actually hold on to it and have it to remember them as they leave, which we'll get to later. If you at the end of your set, during your set, say, hey, thanks for coming, stop by the merch booth, we're giving away free stickers or giving away free bracelets versus necessarily at the door. So if you can be at the door to welcome them in, that's a positive experience because they're here to see artists and you're an artist. And then at the end of it, giving something for them to walk away with. But that's jumping ahead.
No, you're right though. Because at some point this all gets entangled,
It does.
And we have to kind of jump back and forth and
one experience.
Exactly. And when people come up to the merch booth, it is so important for you just to ask questions and listen. I think that just goes understated. The art of the conversation, if you have the time to allow for, goes such a long way, because they will give you little details that you can pick up on and be like, hey, this person said that they like this. And then you find them at the show and you're like, hey, I have this for you. I know you said you like it. I found it in my bag or whatever. Oh my God. You would think like the world crumbled in front of them. Like that it does go that long of a way. And that is actually a part of the episode of The Bear where like somebody will say, hey, this reminds me of my childhood or whatever. And then they will go out of their way to a store to go buy it while they're sitting down dining at the venue. And they will just present it to them at the end and be like, here's this. And they'll be like, oh my God, how did you know that? Or whatever the case may be. And this is maybe being like eavesdroppy or something, you know?
Yeah.
It goes that far away to make the experience so enhanced and so unreasonable that it is perfectly within reason for you to do something along the lines of this, but makes that experience like 30 times better.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. For sure. So now let's switch to, let's stick back to when they get there, when they first walk into the venue. Something that I've only seen one artist do it.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the most brilliant things that I've seen. But what they did is they had a image, had a QR code, and it said, pick my set.
Yeah.
And you could scan it with your code and pick your top 3 songs on a list of songs. And the ones that got the most votes were the ones that he played throughout the set.
So cool.
You can do something similar to that and say, pick our opener or pick our closer, or just say like, pick an opener. Here's all of our songs. What's your favorite song? And that's the one you come out with swinging because you want to set the environment. And also it gives you data of what song are people here to see?
Right.
What song are people excited to the most? And that's like, oh, wow, 80% of people are here for this one song. Maybe I should make some content around that and push that. Yeah. So it helps you down the line. But also imagine like, oh man, they're playing the song that I voted for right off the bat. I am into it. And especially if there's multiple bands on the ticket and someone voted and they're sitting in the back. Man, I voted for this. I hear it. Oh, I'm running to the front to experience it and whatnot.
It's like your voice is being heard.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. And then after that first song, you can talk to the band or talk to the fans and say, hey, thank you for voting in our set. This one, won by 60%. Really excited you guys love this song. Interact with them because like transitioning, if you don't mind me transitioning from before to during the set, communication and engaging with the crowd is one of the best, if not the biggest things that you can do to build that sense of an experience.
Hands down.
Versus just a show.
Hands down.
I've been part of booking local bands for smaller events, and I don't do that anymore. But when I did, a big part when we looked at bands sending us their EPKs was, do they interact with the crowd?
Yeah.
Are they just sitting there tuning between songs? If they are, we're not as likely to get them because we want the crowd to have a positive experience. We worked with municipalities. So when we hired a band, it was, there's a concert every Thursday night, let's say, at this location. This needs to be the place to come in order for the city to get value out of it. So in order for it to be the place to come, they need to have a positive experience to want to come back. The crowd energy, the experience of being downtown and enjoying the live music was what we were selling. Like any venue, like they're selling the experience, like any band, you're selling the experience. So if they're like, oh man, I really enjoyed the experience. The band was engaging with me and I just felt really interacted with throughout the show. Like, oh yeah, the singer pointed at me and like referenced my shirt or like, just whatever it is. People will remember that. And it's a positive experience when they leave. They might not even know the details necessarily, but they're going to leave thinking, I had a great night. I should come back next week. So being the reason why they enjoy it through just interacting with the crowd when you're not performing is absolutely huge.
This is paramount.
Yes. And I'm going to do a side story real quick.
Please.
My favorite concert I've ever been to was an acoustic show by Justin Furstenfeld of Blue October. It was called the Open Book Tour, where it was just him, an acoustic guitar, and he played to small cap venues. The one I went and saw him was around a 250 cap, 300 cap venue. And
those shows are always pretty cool.
It was super cool. And the whole point of it was he started when he was a kid and went through his whole catalog was an order of when he wrote it throughout his life up until that point. And then he always told the story of what state of mind he was in, why he wrote it, all the background of the song before he played the song. And that did two things. One, as an artist, it got him into that headset of when he wrote it, why he wrote it, reminded him of, oh, this is what the song's about. So when he performed it, man, the performances were phenomenal.
Yeah.
You could really tell, like, damn, he cares about the song right now.
Yeah.
And two, it was engaging.
Yeah.
And he was able to make jokes of like, I'm sure have you felt like this, or have you done this before? Or like, because he started from when he was a kid to when he was an adult. It's like, hey, if you're a man who's ever been in college, I'm sure you experienced this, or things like that.
Yep.
Kept it very engaging. The crowd was laughing. The crowd was quiet when they needed to, loud when they needed to. It was constant entertainment.
Yep.
I loved it because it was one of the best sounding concerts I've ever been to as well.
Yeah.
Because he's just a phenomenal artist. But my dad loved it. My sister loved it. My friends all loved it because it was just from start to finish a very interesting, intense, and focus drawing, interactive experience throughout the whole show.
Yep. Yep. And I mean, notice you're talking about it right now.
I am.
That's how big of an impact it makes, right? And it's something as simple as just being like that while you're performing. It's just, it's engaging. It's an experience that you're trying to hit with your listeners, you know? And like so many times, like I feel like when people get up there, it might be a thing of stage fright. It might be a thing of imposter syndrome where it's like, oh man, I see 15 people out there. Like, I'm not going to interact as much just because, like, it would be corny if I did. You need to interact. You really do. No matter how many people are there. It could be 2 people. It could be 500. It could be 3,000. I don't know. Name a number. You need to do your best with the interactions because that's what the experience is all about, right?
And if you're worried about that, let's say you do get stage fright, or you are worried about the energy they're going to give you as the crowd.
Worried
if you can
about
play
a
on it
heckler or something,
Yeah.
right? Some guy's looking at you from the bar.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that guy's going to give me problems or something, right?
If you're worried if you can play off that or not, then come up with some stock responses, write down things that you're going to say and when you're going to say them, so that if you can feed off and play off of the crowd, deviate. But if they're not giving you much, you can always go back to the script that you've refined of, nope, I'll say this before this, I'll do this before that. And also maybe some stock responses from hecklers or whatnot, ways to shut them down in a humorous way that's not offensive. And we talk about this in our live series. So once again, if you want more details, go to that podcast episode. But even that is an experience. If you have a bunch of responses for hecklers or whatnot, and someone heckles you, and you have a funny, candid response to them that you've rehearsed so it comes back quick, it looks like really smooth and quick, and the crowd laughs, they're going to remember that. You just made the experience better.
Exactly.
You turned a heckler from an annoyance into an interesting thing.
Not only that, if somebody happens to be videotaping at that point, you might have a chance to go viral on a social media platform like TikTok.
Potentially.
Right? It's like, oh man, that was really something. That's still an experience, right? Maybe a bad experience for the heckler, you know, if he gets upshowed, but it's still an experience nonetheless. And he was the one that talked shit anyways. So I'm just saying. But yeah, no, love your points there. It's just so important to be so engaging whenever you can during the performance, because I know a lot of the time, like, we're focused on the performance, and that's great. And I think the performance should be great, but that should be something you've already practiced ahead of time. Yeah. You need to be engaging the rest of the time, right? Yeah. So the performance almost comes second. It's like, yeah, you should already know this, and you should already be able to perform it well, especially if you're well rehearsed. You know, like you said, the time to practice is not on the stage. Correct. You should already be practiced up. Yeah. So now we kind of move towards maybe the end of the show. You know, what can we do at the end of the show? And I think one thing that I think is kind of cool, might be a little hard to do depending on how many people are there, but you can write personal thank you notes. Maybe I'm like, I don't know, just some small piece of paper and hand them out as people are leaving, you know? And if you do happen to collect like an email or something in the forefront when they're buying tickets, or maybe you scan a QR code and, you know, you sign up for an email address or whatever, then you can target these specific people on a specific emailing list and do like a follow-up almost. Like, so it's like, if you don't give something out at the end, maybe you can do it digitally. Like, hey, how did you enjoy the show? Upload your photo. We want to see how you enjoyed this, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's still a nice personal touch that also says thank you in there, right? But it's like, we want to see what you experienced, right? And kind of gives you a different perspective. If people aren't uploading anything, well, they're probably either they didn't see or they didn't sign up for the list, or they're not having a great time. And that can kind of give you some insight on what you might need to do in the future to get people to interact a little bit more, right? Because if you're engaging, people will engage, right? And it's not always the other person's job to engage with you. You need to engage with them. And like, coming through the door is one of those ways, right? During the show is one of those ways. And you also have to engage with them while they leave. And this honestly can almost make the biggest impact, because it's the last thing they get from the show. Everything be damned, they get hit in the face while they're moshing. They have a bloody nose or whatever, but you give them a personal sticker, a personal note or something, and they leave with that. That is the final thing they get from it besides the drive home, right? And that leaves the biggest impact because that is the last thing they saw. That is the last thing they experienced. And they're most likely to post about it. And I don't have to tell you this. This is in the book, actually, where I think the restaurant's called EDP or EMP or something. EMP in the book. And one of the personal touches that they gave out a bag of granola for the next morning for breakfast. And it was like this very meticulously put together granola that didn't cost them a whole lot of money. It was like a pistachio thing mix, but they got to have it for breakfast the next day. So not only did that experience continue, or not only did they get something at the end of the experience, but it continued into the next day and made them think about that experience again. So how, we want that lasting impression, right? And that was the thing that they said was most Instagrammed, by the way, was that picture of a bag of the granola, because it's like, that is the experience that you were given at the end. So that is the last thing you remember, and all in all, you had a great night, which is super cool. So what can we do, to bolster that a little bit?
And by personalized, I'm assuming you're not referring to like, hey, John.
No, of course.
But you're talking about like handwritten.
Just handwritten.
Yep. I have experienced a band doing that.
Yep.
I made a purchase from their online store, and it was a local band in Ann Arbor. And when they sent me what I had ordered, included, not with what just I ordered, included was a typed up message that I'm sure was stock, except for a couple, like my name was put in or whatnot, but it was typed in a typewriter.
See, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's different.
So like it was like interesting paper, and it was typed in a typewriter, and it was, had some smudges of ink and things like that, all the things you get from typewriters.
Yeah.
And it fit the vibe of the band. It was their aesthetic. It was like vintage, nostalgic, hipster, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And it handwriting it or typing up something doesn't take a lot of extra effort.
Yeah.
Potentially. Now, if you are playing shows to 500 cap venues, maybe you can't do that.
It gets a little bit more difficult. Yes.
But once again, when you're starting off, you need to do things that separate you and get people to talk about you. And if it takes writing 15 to 30 handwritten thank you notes.
It's not a lot.
No.
That's not a lot.
No, it's not.
Knock that out in an hour.
Yeah. And you can include things like, we talked about, actually on our Instagram, I posted a couple things about simple ideas that you can do. And one of them was having business cards that aren't business cards, but they're download cards, where they can scan the QR code and it takes them to your Bandcamp or whatever, and they can just download your album. So if you are just releasing a new album or whatnot, and you give them a thank you card, it can be handwritten, hey, thanks for coming to the show, it'd be personal. And then you can include a card in it that has your album art and maybe some other stuff on it, and the QR code or something that links to the Spotify album or links to Bandcamp, so they can purchase it or donate to it. And that little mini thing becomes something that's share worthy as well. And also it could lead to a potential sell of your album if they're like, oh yeah, that was really good. Yeah, let's go to Bandcamp. Oh yeah, I'll donate $5 to it. Why not? Well, now you just made $5 just for handing out a letter. And business cards, is you just print them on a business card. Those are very cost effective.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's it's one of those things where I have a story where I went to Warped Tour one year, and I got to see The Ghost Inside, which is one of my favorite bands at the time. And I can't remember if this was before or after their accident, but they had taken a hiatus either before or after, so it was like a big deal. I can't remember, but it was super cool because I was right up front. It was like one of the stages I finally got up front, and I caught their set list after that they threw out, and I don't remember anything from the show besides catching the set list and the chick next to me being pissed because she didn't catch it, and exactly, and that left a lasting impression. I will always remember that, and it's something as simple as just getting that, or like the thank you note or a card or something, a business card, kind of thing that you were talking about. It's just it goes such a long way, I think, and it's one of those things that imprints, onto you. And it's like, oh yeah, I remember when that happened. I don't remember everything else of the show, but I remember that. And that's what points you back to that time, and you are tangentially related to that at that point. You are related to that experience, and you became a good experience, hopefully, to that person, There's a reason that bands will throw extra picks out in the crowd when they're done with their set, or drummers will throw the broken stick into the crowd. God forbid it hits anybody. Well, I mean, you get people's attention and then you toss it. But like... Chucks it.
When people...
I've seen that before.
But... people who catch them, like it makes an impact. It hold on to it. And even the person who missed it was like, oh man, I didn't get it. Well, I got to go to their next show and then like be even louder and like be more upfront so that I get their stick or get their pick or whatnot.
Exactly.
People care about that stuff. So
it's like catching a baseball at a baseball game. And
so small things like that.
Experience.
It's part of the experience.
Yep. And I think those go a really long way.
Yeah.
Those go such a long way. And even if you can't get to everybody and thank them, because you should be thanking them for coming out to your show at the very least. Like if you can be by the merch booth, if you can be by the door or just walk the crowd after you're done and just be like, hey, thank you for coming out, knuckle touch, whatever. That goes such a long way to where people are like, wow, I felt validated and great and somebody was giving me grace or they're grateful that I came out. That's what I'm trying to say. That goes such a long way and support, seriously.
One of the best things you can do is at the end of your set, when all the bands hitting the instruments, strumming the guitar, you know, like they're closing out, say, thanks for coming out. We'll be at the merch table afterwards. Come say hi.
Yeah.
You could even say like, we'll have our merch, we'll have our set lists with us. The first 3 people to get there will get our 3 set lists, or we're giving away free stickers, so make sure you grab one before you leave. Or our new album just came out, so if you want to have access to it, we're giving away these album cards or things like that. But while you're saying thank you, you make that final pitch, but you need to say thank you through the PA.
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. 100%. And this is like another probably very digital area where you kind of want to interact with people this way. And it could be as simple as like, if you have a decent online social media following, it could be as simple as, hey, share a post and we'll reshare it onto our page, right? And then that gives you also social proof on top of it. But people like their experiences being shared too. So they like their photos being shared. They like their videos being shared. It feels validating to do this, right? And this is a part where you can kind of go above and beyond, be like, hey, we saw that you were here, and like maybe some kind of subscriber email. This is getting a little bit more advanced in email marketing. So if you're well versed in that, then take advantage of it.
We can collect them. Hey, swing by our merch booth, give us your email, and like I know Jack White does this. He sells them, but you can like say we'll send you a recording of the. Set.
Super cool.
I know Jack White sells his sets, but like I know other bands like Papadosio, they record them all. That's something that you can do, or any other digital assets of it. Once again, filters, wallpaper, whatever.
Exactly. You know, it's just one of those things. It's like a nice little touch on top of it. It's like, hey, I feel validated that I went to your show, and here's my experience of it. And then you get to share it along. It's such a cool experience. You know, people love when their stuff is, appreciated and shared amongst other people, especially when it's seen by a lot of eyes. You know, if you have 10,000, 22,000, whatever followers, then that can go a long way. And like, not only is that great for them, but it's also great for you because it's social proof. It's free content, right? So it's like a not mutually exclusive. It's like a mutual agreement where it's like, hey, we're gonna do this together.
A symbiotic relationship when they're both beneficial to each other.
Possibly.
I think because there's a term for when it's beneficial to both parties, when it's beneficial to one party, or when it's beneficial to another party. I think symbiotic is beneficial to both.
Gotcha.
Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong.
But it's just something as simple as that. And then maybe like an email follow-up that says, thank you for coming to the show, right? Something simple. And maybe you have a personalized video in there, not a personalized, but maybe you have a video in there that says, hey, thank you so much for coming out to fill in the blank venue or something, or this city. And like I said, like Sean was kind of saying earlier, these don't have to be super personalized. They can just be templated out, and then you just record 10 videos in one day of you saying, hey, thanks for coming out to blah, blah, blah in Nashville. Thank you for coming out to blah, blah, blah in Detroit. And you send these to specific email lists along the way.
Well, we actually talked about this once again in our live show where it's like, even when the show's done, you're not done promoting it.
Exactly.
So posting an Instagram saying, hey, thank you for coming out to our concert. If you were there, go to our website and we've got a special download code for you or something. Or just something like that. Be a one-to-one thank you or one-to-many if you make it a post out of it. Or even like taking a video while you're on stage and like posting that and saying, if you were in the crowd, tag this or like this or whatever. Or things you can do that are engaging to that.
This one's a little tougher because you're kind of relying on people to engage with this, and there's not really a great way to encourage people to engage with it. It's like you are just kind of sending it out into the universe and be like, hope they open this, kind of thing.
You do the call to action, but they still have to make the action.
Exactly. So this one's a little bit more of a tougher thing to do, but it's still more than doable. I think like we kind of summed up everything kind of nicely a little bit, like throughout the chain of everything. So I want to make a couple of quick comments that these experiences and obviously anything that you can think of, obviously we would like to hear from you, but all these experiences combined on top of the additions that you may have takes logistical practice, right?
Yes.
And this means that you have to have a team that is down to cultivate this experience for other people. And everybody has to share that same mission and that same goal. That is highlighted a lot in Unreasonable Hospitality, is about getting the right people on your team to do this kind of thing. And you have to have a leader that is solid and seeing the end goal, and then everybody agree on that end goal. But also everybody has to come up with ideas on their own and be willing to share and take out things that are not efficient or that are not working, right? So with that being said, you have to have a good team behind you and really flesh this out well, because experiences go a really long way. Why do you think Disney World does such a great job? Like, the experience is absolutely insane there, right? And they've done this for 100+ years at this point, and they have a lot of money to do it, right? So, but like, how can you be your Disney? How can you be your best experience you've ever had, and really just take it to the next level? And honestly, sometimes the more, not weird, but the more abstract you kind of get with these ideas, sometimes the better, because those tend to separate, right? So we did some maybe more broader general ones, but if you have something that's specific to your theme of the band or specific to your identity, and you can pull it off, all the better, because that relates that experience even more nichely, and that just highlights it even better.
A great place to start is to look back at your previous concert experience, think about what stood out to you, what you enjoyed, and then put your own creative spin on that aspect of it, because you know it meant something to you. It probably means something to somebody else. So if you don't know where to start, that's a great place to start with it. Also, to continue, this whole point of this episode was to introduce the idea, have a conversation about it, throw out some rough ideas. This isn't a step to do guide. This isn't to try these things specifically. Some of these will work for you, some of these will not. So be creative with it, try things out. Ask ChatGPT what you can do, and that'll give you ideas.
Honestly, it's a good way to spark some ideas. But hopefully just this conversation got you interested and wanted to be more involved and active and unreasonable in making your shows an experience. And once again, we focus on live. This goes further than that. You can make any sort of delivery. Like I mentioned, I ordered something from a local band and they sent me a typewriter message. That's an order that became an experience versus just getting something in the mail from Amazon. You can do this with all sorts of things. You can be unreasonable with your social media. How can you make your posts stand out and more engaging and more of an experience? Can you do, I know, like ARGs and shit like that are really exciting for a lot of people. And if that relates to your genre and your music and what you're building up as an artist, hell yeah, go for that. And as you mentioned, some of these are more in depth. Some have a low ROI in terms of time, where it's like, man, it's 30 minutes for me to do one thing for one person, whereas it's 30 minutes for me to do one thing for 1,000 people, where you get a higher ROI. Some of these things, like the digital things we suggested, or some stuff like that. Or you make one. You go into Canva, and in 30 minutes, you make a card design that you can get in Vistaprint and hand out to all people, and everyone gets the same card that they can get after the show or pass it out when they're leaving. That's a huge ROI for your time. Puts a little more money into it, but things like that. What works for you? What are you capable of doing? If you have time but no money, do that. If you have money but no time, do that. It's all a use case, so the whole point was just to get you thinking about this. So hopefully you are. My last thing to add to that is, I forgot. What was I going to say? Oh, my last thing to add to that is that you will not see a direct trend line from your first show for doing something different the first time, right? So what that means is, like, you need to do this multiple times before you can start seeing where your trends are and like, oh, is this actually efficient to do? Or is this taking up a lot of our time, like Sean was saying? Or is this even engaging at all? Are people just throwing these cards on the ground? Are people just stickering it all over the fucking porta potty outside, you know, or whatever? This takes time to do. So the first time you see it, so I don't know about you, but for me, usually the first time I do something is so like, wow, this worked out really well. And the second time I go to do it, I fuck up royally and it sucks. And I'm like, that is the law of averages right there. You need to give time for the law of averages to do its thing, to really average out and see, is this worth doing or is this not worth doing? Where do we need to pivot, or do we need to dial in more with this, certain thing? It's going to take a lot of time to do. And it's just, unfortunately, there's not going to be one catch-all answer for you. So don't give up first show, right? Don't give up first tour. this takes time.
And also be conscious that just because you maybe don't get the results you expected when you try it, doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad idea. It just might mean your approach needs to change. Like if you're giving away these cards that link to your Bandcamp and you don't have any more purchases after shows, once again, maybe put it inside an envelope that has a sticker and a thank you letter or things like that. Now, when they get home, they open it, they see the card, they have a thank you letter. It's more of an experience. Oh yeah, you know what? I'll check it out. And all of a sudden you get more. Like it just might have to change how it's presented or what goes along with it. So don't discredit something just because it doesn't work. And don't put too much faith into it just because it does work, because it might be able to work better. Iterate. Produce, consume.
Create, produce, consume.
Create, produce, consume.
And on top of that, I want to add to this too, because there's also this in the book, Unreasonable Hospitality. Will explains that while they're trying to get 11 Madison Park, that's the restaurant name, EMP. While they were trying to get it from 2-star Michelin or Michelin 2-star restaurant to a Michelin 3-star restaurant, it took, I think, 3 years to do it. And there were two stars in a row before they got the third, I believe. And it took those 2 extra years to refine and redo everything, right? And look where the processes are within the restaurant to finally earn that 3rd star. So that's how long it could take. And that's actually pretty short. 2 years is kind of short to do, in my opinion. They could take a really long time to finally dial it in. But in between, then you're going to be doing different things anyways, different music, different albums, different whatever. Your identity is going to change and morph over time. So give yourself time to do this.
It
has to. You have to put some time into this one. This one's a big investment. It's all about the experience market. It's so undervalued, and we don't think about it. But like once you start highlighting the different areas you can improve on, it's a vast land. It's a vast land
for sure. For sure. Well, with that being said, if you want to experience a fantastic experience, you can hit up this man right here.
Oh, thanks,
and
Sean.
Get your music done.
Thank you, Sean. This is very kind of you. I hope the experience is good. Well, so far, the experience is not great with me talking about it. But anyways, if you are interested in getting some audio stuff done, whether it be music or anything audio in general, please hit me up at my website, studio222recording.com. I'd love to hear from you and hear what you are doing. I like audio and all things audio, so if I can help out in any way, that'd be great. If not, then, we'll just talk about what you want to do, and your goals, But Sean also has a great studio with a great experience attached to it. I go to it once a week, usually. We're at my studio today. But it's always a great time. Sean, where can we find more about you?
That it is. You can find me at swsrecordings.com. I remote mix and master folk, rock, acoustic, and blues. So if those are your genres, hit me up there. Fill out the request form. I'd love to talk to you about your music. I also do artist development coaching, which is basically this podcast, but more specific towards what you are doing with your music career to help you grow and make a living doing music, doing what you love. So yeah, if you want to, you can just hit me up for that to do a call. We'll spend, a couple minutes talking about what you're currently doing, what you're struggling at. I'd just love to talk to you and learn more about your career. So you can definitely find me on swsrecordings.com. And if you'd like to learn more about the podcast as a whole, you can on any social media platform. We are Music Makers Cookbook. Our main focus is YouTube, where we have this video podcast, but we also specifically post unique shorts and other content that covers all aspects of the music industry, some behind the scenes stuff, some interesting stuff, some things regarding to relevant news happening in the industry at this point in time. So yeah, check that out. Please subscribe. Very appreciative.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And with all of that being said,
bon appetit.